Okay, so ready to jump into the time machine. We're going way into the future, like 1,000 years into the future.
To the year 3025.
3025.
Buckle up.
Yeah, should be a fun one. We got a whole bunch of different sources, articles, and predictions from experts, futurists, you name it.
Some are pretty wild.
Yeah, and some are actually, pretty
Pretty grounded.
grounded and plausible. We're going to try to sort those out, right? What's possible versus just, out there.
Exactly. And there's a good bit of humor in some of these predictions, so that's always fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's what we're here for, right? To have a little fun with it, but also maybe learn something along the way.
Always learning, always laughing.
That's the motto. Okay, so should we jump right into it?
Let's do it. What's the first one that caught your eye?
Okay, so brain implants for internet access.
Wow, that's starting off strong.
Right, that was one of the first ones I saw, and I was like, oh, we got to talk about this. So, I mean, can you imagine, like, just thinking your way onto social media?
It's like instead of doom scrolling with your fingers, you're doom scrolling with your thoughts.
Exactly right. Like, what is that even going to be like?
It's fascinating to think about the implication. I mean, instant access to information and communication just by thinking about it.
I know. I mean, it's like super efficient.
Ugh.
But then, part of me thinks, like, are we going to lose, like, our ability to, like, actually think for ourselves?
Mm. Yeah.
If we're just constantly plugged in.
That's a valid concern. It's like if our brains become so reliant on that external input, what
Yeah.
happens to our own internal processes?
Yeah, and, like, what's going to be the hot trends on the mental internet in 1,000 years,
Good question. Like, are we still going to be obsessed with cat videos and memes 1,000 years from now?
I hope so. But then I'm also thinking, like, okay, so there's got to be mental spam, right?
Oh, mental spam. I hadn't even thought about that.
Right. Like, are we going to have to install, like, mental ad blockers or something?
That's both hilarious and terrifying at the same time. Like, can you imagine targeted advertising directly into your brain?
Ugh, stop. Don't even. That's a little too Black Mirror for me.
Hmm.
Okay, let's move on to something a little less dystopian.
Yeah, please. My brain needs a break from the spam already.
How about this? Utility fog. It's like this idea of creating virtual worlds.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool one. Like customizable realities all around us.
Yeah. So basically, these microscopic robots, they kind of assemble themselves, like, on demand into whatever environment you can imagine.
So I could be like hanging out in a virtual rainforest while you're off exploring, I don't know, a virtual moon base or something.
Exactly, all in the same room. It makes me think, like, what happens when those realities, like, collide,
Ooh, interesting. Like property disputes in virtual reality.
Right. Hey, your virtual pet dragon is scorching my virtual garden.
It raises a lot of questions about personal space and boundaries, even in a virtual world.
Totally. And speaking of changing realities, another prediction we came across was about human evolution.
Oh, yeah, like how humans might physically change over the next 1,000 years.
Right. So taller, less aggressive. It's like everyone's going to be these graceful giants floating around.
It's definitely a fascinating, if not slightly humorous prediction. Like, will basketball become a sport for only people over 10 feet tall?
Right. And, like, imagine arguments getting settled with, like, passive-aggressive haiku instead of shouting matches.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
A world where shade is thrown in the form of poetry.
Right. It's very Zen vision of the future, isn't it? But, I do wonder how realistic some of these evolutionary shifts are.
Yeah, predicting evolution is tricky. I mean, it's a slow process and it's influenced by so many factors like environment, technology, even culture.
I know. And, like, even if we are spending more time in virtual realities or maybe living on other planets with different gravity, who's to say that's going to make us less aggressive? Have you ever played a virtual reality game?
Point taken. People can get pretty competitive, even when it's just pixels on a screen.
Exactly. Our basic instincts, they might not just disappear overnight.
But maybe, just maybe, if we do evolve to be taller, it'll be because we've learned to use our words instead of our fists.
Fingers crossed for that.
Okay, ready for a less fun topic. Increased solar radiation.
Oh, yeah. That one's a bit of a downer.
Seriously, it's like 1,000 years in the future, and I'm already worried about getting a sunburn.
Well, as the sun gets older, it naturally gets brighter, which means more radiation.
Makes sense. And in 1,000 years, that extra radiation could make things really hot on Earth.
Yikes. So another reason to figure out that whole space colonization thing.
Exactly.
Well, from everything we've talked about, 3025 sounds like it's going to be pretty wild.
Definitely a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, brain implants, space colonies, even humans evolving into totally different beings. Okay, so we've talked about brain implants, virtual worlds, evolving humans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the one that I'm not sure if I'm excited or terrified about,
Mm-hmm.
the devolve scenario.
Yes. The classic humans getting dumber prediction.
Exactly. Like, what if in 1,000 years we're all just sitting around staring blankly at walls?
Like a real-life version of the movie Idiocracy.
Exactly.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
maybe not that extreme. But seriously, what could actually lead to, like, a decline in human intelligence?
Well, some experts argue that our increasing reliance on technology could be a factor. We outsource so much mental work to our devices, our brains might get a little lazy.
Makes sense. Like, if I don't have to remember phone numbers anymore because my phone does it for me, is that part of my brain just gonna, like, atrophy?
Potentially. But I think the key is to find ways to use technology to enhance our cognitive abilities, not just replace them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for using technology to make us smarter, not dumber.
Exactly. Like imagine educational tools that are so engaging, so personalized, that learning becomes like a game.
Like educational brain implants.
Maybe. Or just, super advanced software that adapts to your learning style and keeps you motivated. The point is, we can use technology to make ourselves sharper, not duller.
I like the sound of that. So maybe put down the phone once in a while, pick up a book, challenge your brain. Your future self might thank you. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the future.
It's been a blast.
Until next time, keep those brains sharp, those senses of humor even sharper. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in the year 3025.
With our brain implants and virtual pets in tow.
Exactly. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.